Part 1. The breeze carried the scent of fresh-cut grass as I sat beside Gala's on a worn park bench near her sprawling mansion in Willow Creek. Her world was all polished sports cars, glittering charity galas, and high society friends who flashed perfect smiles but judged anyone who didn't belong. That afternoon, none of their world mattered. Her laugh, bright as sunlight bouncing off a lake, and her sparkling hazel eyes made me believe love could conquer any divide. "Can you stick around a bit longer?" she murmured, her voice soft as she leaned closer, her fingers brushing mine. That bench, etched with her name from when she was a kid, felt like our little island. This was before the engagement, before her family's wealth cast shadows over everything. Gala's dad, Phil, loomed large in the real estate game, a man whose presence filled a room despite his average height. Her mom, Mile, short for Michelle, threw lavish fundraisers and jetted to Paris for fashion halls. I came from a different world, a sleepy cul-de-sac in Pine Hollow where neighbors swapped stories over rusty fences. My dad, a retired history teacher, and my mom, who baked pies for local cafes, lived simply. We had enough, but her family couldn't grasp that. "I've got an early shift at the gear shop," I told Gala's, my voice low as she nestled against me, pouting. "I hate when you go," she said, her warmth wrapping around me like a blanket. In that moment, my scuffed sneakers and faded jacket didn't matter. I thought she saw past all that. Our love bloomed, but so did the weight of her parents' world. Mile could hush a crowd with a single sharp glance, her elegance cutting like a blade. Phil, my future father-in-law, tossed out casual comments that felt like veiled warnings. They put up with me for Gala's sake, but their looks screamed I'd never measure up. "Congrats," Phil said, his handshake stiff as a board the night we shared our engagement news at their estate. "We're thrilled for you both." I nodded, forcing a smile. "Thanks, sir." "Just Phil," he replied, his tone cool. "Let's see how this plays out." His words echoed in my head, a quiet chill I tried to shake off by focusing on Gala's glowing grin. Deep down, I knew they saw me as an outsider crashing their perfect world. A week later, Gala's and I sat at her parents' gleaming oak table in their dining room, the air heavy with the scent of polished wood and old money. Phil slid a folder toward me, his eyes steady. "Need you to sign this," he said. Inside was a prenup, its pages crisp and cold, stating that Gala's family wealth, properties, businesses, hefty gifts, stayed hers alone. Any big wins we scored together, like lottery jackpots or TV game show prizes, would be shared. The section on unexpected financial gains was oddly specific, as if they'd mapped out every possible windfall. My name appeared in stiff legal jargon. "The prospective spouse consents to—" I shifted in my seat. "Is this really necessary?" Miles' voice was smooth as velvet. "Just standard for families like ours. You get it." I glanced at Gala's, hoping for backup, but she stood by the window, her expression unreadable. "It's no big deal," she said softly. "They're just protecting the family. It won't change us." I wanted to push back, but love and the need to keep peace won out. I scribbled my name, the pen heavy, tying me to terms I barely grasped. Phil's half-smile felt like a quiet victory. "Welcome to the family," he said, his tone unreadable. 6 months later, we tied the knot by Lakeview Shores, the day bursting with imported roses, a towering 6-layer cake, and a string quartet's melody floating over the water. My parents, wide-eyed at the extravagance, looked out of place. My dad tugged at his old suit, uneasy under the stares of distant cousins asking, "So, how'd your son land her?" Despite the tension, the photos captured joy. Gala's radiant in her lace dress, me feeling like I could take on the world. Our love felt like a force no divide could break. We moved into a condo Phil called a gift, but the catch was clear. He'd covered the down payment, and I was on the hook for the mortgage. "You'll handle the monthly payments, right, son?" he said, not quite a question. I nodded, ignoring the feeling that I was renting a place he still controlled. Our first years brought small fights, money, mostly, and her parents meddling. They'd show up unannounced, hauling in sleek furniture that screamed their taste, not mine, or rearranging our space because their designer had ideas. I bit my tongue when Gala's brushed it off. "They're just helping," she'd say, her voice light but firm. I started seeing their influence everywhere. Our home, our choices, their rules. I told myself every couple deals with in-laws. We'd figure it out. Then came the call at work, Gallus' voice shaking with excitement. "You won't believe this," she said. "I won the lottery." My phone nearly slipped from my hand. "Wait, what?" "It's real, $8 million. I grabbed a ticket at a gas station on a whim, and it hit. My head spun with dreams, paying off my parents' house, buying a place free of Phil's shadow, maybe starting a small business. "That's unreal," I said, my voice trembling with possibility. Life was about to shift. But the thrill faded fast. Gallus got cagey about the money, insisting we keep it hush-hush, especially from my family. She started meeting with lawyers I'd never heard of, saying it was just to handle the claim. "Shouldn't I come along?" I asked, leaning against the kitchen counter. She shook her head, her eyes distant. "These guys deal with big estates. You'd feel out of place. I'll update you." Her words stung, a quiet jab I didn't want to admit hurt. Over the next few weeks, I felt like a bystander in my own life, pushed further from the center of our windfall with each passing day. 2-part. Rain tapped against my windshield as I pulled into our condo's lot in Oak Ridge, drained from a brutal double shift at the gear shop. All I wanted was to crash on the couch, maybe steal a moment with Gallus to talk about that lottery money, how we'd handle it, maybe pay off the mortgage. Instead, she brushed off my questions with a vague, "It's tricky, okay?" That gray afternoon, I dragged myself through the front door, my boots heavy with exhaustion, and froze. Gallus and her Aunt Linda were rifling through drawers, tossing my stuff into cardboard boxes. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice catching. Gallus straightened, her jaw tight, eyes cold as the drizzle outside. "I'm filing for divorce. Pack up and get out tonight." My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step on a staircase. The room spun as I tried to process her words. "What are you talking about?" I stammered, my heart hammering. Aunt Linda, tall and sharp-featured like a bird of prey, fixed me with a look that could curdle milk. "This condo's in Gallus' name, bought with her dad's money. You've got no claim here." I blinked, stunned. I'd been splitting the mortgage for years, pouring every paycheck into this place, but they acted like I was a squatter. "Please, can we just talk?" I pleaded, my voice cracking. Gallus' lips pressed into a thin line, unyielding. "My lawyer will reach out. Leave, or we'll call security." My throat tightened, like a fist was squeezing it. I grabbed a duffel, shoved in some clothes and a toothbrush, and stumbled out, my life unraveling in minutes under the weight of her family's wealth. Headlights blurred through the rain as I drove to my parents' place in Pine Hollow, my hands shaking on the wheel. My dad opened the door, his brow furrowing at the sight of my duffel and hollow eyes. "What's wrong?" he asked, stepping back. I forced the words out, each one bitter. "Gallus won the lottery, filed for divorce, and kicked me out." My mom gasped, her hands flying to her face, her voice rising. "Those stuck-up in-laws of yours, heartless." My dad's jaw clenched, his eyes narrowing, but he kept his cool, anger simmering beneath his calm. "You need a lawyer," he said, setting a mug of coffee in front of me. "We've got to check that prenup." I dropped my head into my hands, the weight of it all crushing me. "That's the thing Phil and Mile made me sign it. I bet it screws me over." He leaned forward, voice steady. "We don't know yet. Let's find out." 2 days later, I sat in a small law office downtown, the air thick with the scent of old books and coffee. Sunlight slipped through dusty blinds, casting shadows across the desk of Mr. Carlson, my dad's old buddy and a family law pro. I slid the prenup to him, explaining how Phil and Mile had pushed it, locking down Gallus' family wealth. He flipped through the pages, then let out a low chuckle, his eyes glinting. "They messed up big time." My pulse quickened, a flicker of hope sparking. "What do you mean?" He tapped a paragraph, his pen circling a clause. "They protected her inherited assets, trusts, properties, gifts. But they added that any windfall during the marriage, like lottery winnings, is shared property unless they say otherwise." I stared, my jaw slack. "They put that in there?" He nodded, grinning. "They were so focused on shielding their estate, they forgot to exclude the jackpot. Unless a judge gets creative, you're owed a big chunk of that $8 million. Relief and rage crashed together in my chest, fury at their attempt to erase me, but a thrill that I wasn't powerless. Whispers started swirling that week, like leaves caught in a gust. A buddy from the old neighborhood mentioned spotting Gallus around Willow Creek with Scott, some guy she used to work with at a marketing firm. My mom frowned when I told her, stirring her tea too fast. "You think she's cheating?" I shrugged, my stomach twisting like a wrung-out rag. "I don't know, but it's not looking good, is it?" I pictured Gallus, once so warm and soft-spoken, now flush with cash and cozying up to this Scott guy. Was that why she was shoving me out? The thought was a knife, twisting deeper with every rumor. I'd already lost my home, my marriage. Her with someone else felt like a final blow. But I needed proof before I'd confront her, so I tucked the suspicion away, letting it simmer. Phil didn't wait long to make his move. My phone buzzed one morning, a private number flashing. Against my gut, I answered. "Listen," he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "You'll never touch that lottery money. You're nothing, and my lawyers know every judge in this town. You'll be broke from legal fees if you try." I gripped the phone, forcing my voice to stay even. "Actually, the prenup says otherwise." He laughed, sharp and mocking. "You think that matters? Back off, or you'll regret it." I hung up, my hands trembling, but Mr. Carlson's warning about intimidation tactics echoed in my head. I typed up every word of the call, emailed it to my lawyer, and saved the voicemail, building my case as the tension thickened. 2 days later, Mile cornered me outside my parents' house, her designer coat pristine against the faded paint of our porch. Her hair was swept into a perfect twist, but her eyes burned with cold fury. "I've got an offer," she said, glancing around like she didn't want the neighbors to hear. She handed me a slip of paper with a dollar amount, barely enough to cover a year of the condo payments I'd already made. "Take this and walk away," she said, her voice clipped. "It's more than you're worth." I let out a dry laugh, my breath visible in the chilly air. "You serious?" Her eyes narrowed. "You're from a simple family. This is generous. Why drag this out in court?" I tore the paper in half, letting the pieces fall. "No deal. See you in court." She scoffed, muttering ungrateful, as she stormed to her car, its engine roaring as she sped off. Meanwhile, the rumors about Gallas and Scott kept growing, each one a fresh cut to my already bruised heart. Part 3. Steam curled from my coffee as I stood in line at a cozy shop in Willow Creek, the aroma of roasted beans almost masking the ache in my chest. Angela, an old friend we both knew, spotted me and hesitated before speaking. "Hey, not to butt in, but are you and Gallas done?" I saw her with Scott at that upscale bistro on Maple Street. They looked close. My gut twisted, like someone had yanked a knot tight. "Probably just friends," I muttered, forcing a shrug. Angela's eyes softened with pity. They were holding hands. The floor seemed to vanish beneath me. Gallas, flush with her $8 million lottery win, was likely cheating, using the cash to shove me out of her life. I swallowed hard, keeping my face neutral. No way I'd make a scene. Back at my parents' place, I called Mr. Carlson. By the next morning, he'd filed a motion to freeze the lottery funds, locking them until the divorce settled. Phil's legal team pounced, trying to squash the motion, but the judge shot them down. We pushed forward with a contested divorce, leaning hard on the prenups clause that labeled any windfall, like that lottery, as shared property. I'd been pouring money into our life since day one, and that had to count. At a preliminary hearing in a sterile courthouse, I spotted Gallas across the room, flanked by Phil, Mile, and 2 sharp-suited attorneys. Her gaze stayed fixed on the floor, avoiding mine, her face a mask of distance. Afterward, I caught her in the hallway, her arms crossed tight. "How long?" I asked, my voice low, trembling with restraint. She glared, her cheeks flushing. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You and Scott." I pressed, my heart pounding. "How long have you been with him?" Her eyes flicked to Phil, who glowered nearby. Then she leaned in, her whisper venomous. "You suffocated me with your ordinary life. Scott gets me. He's driven, exciting. I was done waiting for you to keep up." My mouth went dry, her words slicing deep. "So I was just a stepping stone?" She lifted her chin, unapologetic. "You don't fit in my world." "Excuse me." I stepped closer, voice steady despite the pain. "I'm not walking away empty-handed. You and your parents started this fight." Her eyes narrowed. "A fight? Fine. Bring it to court." She spun away, joining her parents, leaving me with a chest full of jagged edges. Phil didn't let up. One morning, my phone lit up with a text from my boss at the gear shop. Phil had called, hinting that keeping me employed could tank the store's expansion plans. Classic power play. My boss, who'd known me since I was a kid, told Phil to shove it. But then Gallas texted, her words dripping with venom. "Stop leeching off good people. Accept reality. No one wants you here. My dad's done playing nice." I stared at the screen, my hands shaking, but I didn't reply. My dad's advice rang clear. Don't sink to their level, document everything. I forwarded the text to Mr. Carlson, adding it to the growing pile of evidence. The stress was a constant weight, like carrying a backpack full of bricks, but I held tight to the prenup's loophole, the one thing keeping me in the game. In Mr. Carlson's office, the air smelled of ink and old files as he pored over the prenup again, his glasses perched low. He tapped a clause, his voice calm but firm. This is our ace. All financial windfalls during the marriage, including but not limited to lottery winnings, are marital property unless explicitly excluded. They locked down family trusts, gifts, and estates but forgot the jackpot. I leaned forward, my pulse quickening. They really missed that? He nodded, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Their obsession with shielding their wealth left a gap wide enough to drive a truck through. Meanwhile, gossip about galas and Scott spread like wildfire, spotted at trendy clubs, five-star hotels, even a beach resort in Cape Solara. My mom, stirring soup in her kitchen, asked if I'd use the cheating in court. Mr. Carlson shook his head when I brought it up. Our state's no-fault divorce laws mean her affair won't boost your share. The prenup's your weapon focus there. I nodded, realizing this wasn't about revenge. It was about standing up to their attempts to erase me. The final court date loomed like a storm cloud over Pine Hollow, promising a clash of wills and legal maneuvering. A week before, my phone buzzed late at night, the screen glowing in my parents' dim living room. I was slumped in an armchair, exhausted from sorting documents with Mr. Carlson, when Gallas's name flashed. We hadn't spoken since she had me thrown out of the condo. My heart thudded anger, curiosity, and something else I couldn't name. I answered, keeping my tone flat. Hey. Her voice wavered, like she was forcing calm. Can we talk? My stomach twisted. About what? She paused, her breath shaky. I don't want this to get uglier in court. Maybe we can settle, find something fair for both of us. I laughed, the sound bitter in my throat. Fair? After she and her parents had kicked me out, called me a parasite, and claimed the lottery was hers alone? Define fair, I said, my voice colder than the night air. She sighed, impatient. We keep it quiet, sign an NDA, avoid the media and our friends sniffing around. You'd get some money, more than before, but less than what your lawyer's chasing. It keeps my parents out of the spotlight, and you walk away safe. A flicker of relief hit me. They were scared of the verdict. But anger surged stronger. No deal, I said, gripping the phone. I'm done with backroom offers. We'll let the judge decide. Her voice turned sharp, venomous. You're a fool. You have no idea what my parents can do. They'll ruin you, your job, your life, anywhere within 500 miles. Fear sparked, but I pushed it down, refusing to let her see it. Part 4. My jaw tightened as I gripped the phone, Gallas's threats still ringing in my ears. I'll take that chance, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Goodbye. I hung up before she could fire back, my hand trembling. Doubt crept in like a cold draft. Had I just made a massive mistake turning down her offer? I pictured myself blackballed, jobless, maybe forced to leave Willow Creek entirely. But then I saw Phil's smug grin, Miles' icy stare, and Gallas tossing me out of our condo like I was nothing. Mr. Carlson had sworn we were on solid ground with the prenup's wording. If they tried to stall, the judge would see through it. I squared my shoulders, pushing fear aside. No more backing down. I was in this until the end. Gray clouds hung low over Pine Hollow on the morning of the final hearing, the air heavy with the promise of rain. I tugged on my best suit, dark slate, not fancy but sharp enough, while my mom fussed with my tie, her voice soft. We're rooting for you, kid. Outside the courthouse, I met Mr. Carlson, his grim nod mirroring my own nerves. My parents lingered nearby, their quiet presence a lifeline, but this was my fight. The lobby buzzed with restless energy, lawyers tapping phones, a clerk barking names. I spotted Gallas, pristine in a tailored jacket and skirt, perched on a bench. Phil loomed behind her, arms crossed, his face a mask of barely contained fury. Mile whispered in her ear, her eyes flicking to me with venom. For attorneys hovered around them, digging through sleek briefcases, muttering over notes. Gallas glanced my way, her look cold, then turned away with a sharp toss of her hair. In that moment, I felt like the greedy villain in the story she'd spun for her world. Mr. Carlson's hand grazed my shoulder. Let's do this, he said, voice low. The courtroom felt like stepping into a freezer, its wooden benches stiff and unforgiving, the judge's seat looming high. I settled at the petitioner's table, Mr. Carlson beside me, while Gallas and her legal army spread out across from us. The bailiff called order, and a judge, sharp-eyed, silver streaks in her pinned-up hair, rapped her gavel. "We're here to settle the division of marital assets," she said, her voice cutting through the silence as she read our names. My stomach nodded, but I kept my face steady. Gallus's lead attorney jumped in, rehashing their tired line. The lottery ticket was bought with her own money, never meant to be shared. Mr. Carlson rose, calm as ever. "Your Honor, bank records show the ticket was purchased with our joint debit card, both names on the account. Plus, the prenup clearly lists lottery winnings as marital property." The judge's brow arched, and she gestured for the documents. I caught Phil's jaw twitch, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. When Gallus spoke, her voice was sharp as a blade. "I never meant to cheat him. My parents were just worried about gold diggers coming after me. Things got out of hand, and I'm sorry if it seemed sudden." Sudden? She'd thrown me out with no warning, like I was trash. I bit back a retort, my hands clenching under the table. The judge peered at her over her glasses, unimpressed. Then Phil's lawyer took a swing, his tone dripping with disdain. "Your Honor, this man barely contributed to their household. He leaned on my client's father's generous condo down payment, essentially living off their wealth. He has no claim." The word freeloader stung like a slap. Mr. Carlson didn't flinch. "We have receipts, mortgage payments, utilities, groceries. My client paid thousands over years. He wasn't freeloading. He carried more than they'll admit." The room crackled with tension as evidence flew back and forth, each claim met with a counter. Gallus's glare grew colder, and I felt Phil and Miles' hostility like a weight on my back. By late afternoon, the judge rapped her gavel, silencing the room. Papers stilled as attorneys froze. She held the prenup, her lips curling slightly. "The language here is clear. Any financial windfall during the marriage is marital property, subject to fair division. There's no ambiguity." A hush fell. Phil's jaw locked, and Gallus's face paled, her eyes blinking fast. The judge turned to her. "Furthermore, you evicted your spouse from the condo without notice, despite his financial contributions. That was both unkind and legally significant." Mr. Carlson hid a smirk, but I caught it. The judge's next words hit like a thunderclap. "The court rules that the lottery winnings are a shared marital asset, with a substantial portion awarded to the petitioner. He's also entitled to reimbursement for mortgage payments, utilities, and other expenses he covered." Relief flooded me, warm and overwhelming, but I kept my face blank. "We'll reconvene for final calculations if needed." Court adjourned. Her gavel slammed, and the bailiff called, "All rise." My knees wobbled as we stood, the fight finally over. The courtroom erupted into murmurs as the judge left. Reporters, sniffing local drama, crowded the doors, craning for a glimpse. Phil stormed toward me, his face flushed crimson. "This isn't done," he hissed, his voice low and venomous. "You don't know what we can still do. We'll appeal, Will." I met his gaze, unflinching, my heart pounding but steady. The war was won, but his words lingered like a storm cloud, promising more to come. Part 5. My chest swelled with a mix of defiance and victory as I faced Phil's red-faced glare. "It's done," I said, voice steady, letting the judge's ruling sink in. Gallus stood off to the side, arms hugging her chest, tears glinting in her eyes. Not sorrow, but raw fury. Mile hissed something sharp in her ear, her scowl cutting through the courthouse air. Mr. Carlson's hand brushed my arm. "Let's get out of here," he murmured. "Let them stew." But before I could move, Gallus lunged, her face twisted in a snarl. "You filthy leech," she screamed, swinging her purse at my shoulder. I dodged, but her nails grazed my sleeve, tearing fabric. A guttural cry ripped from her throat, echoing in the high-ceilinged chamber. The bailiff and a security guard surged forward. "Ma'am, step back," the bailiff barked. Phil, stunned, snapped, "Stop it." But Gallus was unraveling, tears streaming as she spat venom. "You think you've won? You're a parasite who tricked everyone." My pulse raced, adrenaline spiking. I'd never seen her this wild, not even in our ugliest fights. My mom gasped from the aisle, her hand clutching my dad's arm. Mr. Carlson stepped in front of me, arms raised like a shield. The guard grabbed Gallus's arm. "Calm down, or you're out," he said, voice firm. She thrashed, her face contorted. "He's stealing my money. You know who my father is." The guard's grip tightened, pulling her back. "Enough. Court's done. No violence here." Her lawyer scrambled over, hands up, pleading, but the judge was already gone. A clerk rushed in, horrified by the chaos. Gallus kept hurling insults as security dragged her toward the hallway, Phil trailing, waving his arms, demanding they let her go. Mile pressed a hand to her mouth, frozen. The bailiff turned to me. She assaulted you in court. That's contempt. She'll face the judge. Gallus's voice, muffled by walls, still raged. He used me. He's the villain. My heart pounded, but I saw it clearly. We become shadows of ourselves, our broken marriage a public wreck. We waited on hard benches, the air thick with tension. My mom approached, eyes wet, voice shaky. You okay? I nodded, but my voice sounded thin. I'm fine. After what felt like forever, the bailiff returned, face stern. The judge issued a contempt citation. She'll pay a hefty fine for the assault and stay in custody briefly to cool off. No further charges unless you want to file. I hesitated, anger burning, but a flicker of pity stopped me. Gallus was lashing out, trapped by her own arrogance. No charge, I said. The court's enough. He nodded. Days later, Gallus was released, her lawyers rushing to settle quietly to dodge more shame. Her outburst had hit local gossip columns, tarnishing her name. On a chilly afternoon, I sat in Mr. Carlson's office, the air smelling of paper and ink. Phil glowered across the table. Gallus sat rigid, eyes swollen, staring past me. The fire in her was gone, replaced by quiet defeat. Mile hovered, muttering to their lawyer. They slid over papers, a fat sum from the $8 million, plus full release of condo claims. I signed, steady, as Mr. Carlson checked every line. Congrats, he whispered. Phil shoved a check at me. Take it. Hope you're thrilled. Gallus stared blankly, lost in her thoughts. With the final signature, it was over. No one said a word as I walked out, the weight of the fight lifting at last.